The ghost haunting 50 Berkeley Square over the last 2 centuries has given it the reputation of being the most haunted house in London. Although hauntings are enough to scare anybody away, when it comes to the hauntings of 50 Berkeley Square, some of them didn't escape with their life. I'm Bleaky, and in today's video I will tell you the chilling story that includes people being driven mad by spirits, as well as a creature described as the Thing, which is said to have killed several people within the haunted house. The 4-storey townhouse in Berkeley Square was built in the late 18th and early 19th century and sits smack bang in the middle of London. During the Victorian era, 50 Berkeley Square was rumoured to be the most haunted home in London, and for good reasons too. The most famous owner of 50 Berkeley Square was Prime Minister George Canning, who died in 1827. After Canning, the house was owned by a woman called Miss Curzon, who died in 1859 at the ripe old age of 90. Following Curzon's death, the house gained a reputation for a haunted second floor, the area that the former owner spent most of her time. Interestingly, other stories revolving this case also include this area of the building. People would see the deceased owner looking through the windows and would hear ghostly singing echoing deep within the building. Bizarre things began to happen when its next inhabitant, Thomas Myers, moved in 1859. You see, there was a rumour that he had been rejected by his fiancée, which led him to becoming a recluse and eventually going mad. Reluctant to live in the house that he intended for him and his partner, he moved into the attic and slept during the day. At night, however, he would walk around the house with a candle in his hand, making sure not to light the rooms up too much, which were a painful reminder of the time he spent with the woman he loved. If he had just feasted on a couple of gallons of Ben & Jerry's to deal with his breakup, then maybe things would have turned out better for Myers. The house soon fell into disrepair, and people were scared of the strange lights and noises at night, and of course its strange owner. Myers was even sued by the local council for not paying his taxes. Incredibly, when he failed to turn up to his court hearing, the magistrate excused him because he was living in a known haunted house. Is that all it takes to avoid paying council tax? I think I may need to run around the house with a sheet over my head tonight. The attic was not only the hiding place for Thomas Myers, but the location that a spirit of a young girl is said to haunt. It is believed that after a young woman was abused by her uncle, she ran up to the top floor of the house, opened the window, and threw herself out. Her spirit has frightened many eyewitnesses, and is said to appear as a brown mist or a white figure. Unfortunately, this isn't the only death that occurred in the house. In 1840, 20-year-old Sir Robert Warboys heard the chilling stories of the malevolent spirit that roamed the halls of the house, which had become known as the Berkeley Square Thing. One night, as he was drinking in the Holborn Tavern, he laughed at a group of drinkers talking about the haunting, saying that the story was poppycock. The men argued with him and dared him to spend the night on the haunted second floor. Sir Robert raised his flagon, downed his ale, and agreed to the ridiculous challenge. That night, Sir Robert went to the house and knocked on the door. He asked the landlord if he could stay for the night to complete this dare. The landlord tried to talk him out of it, but the young man refused to listen and demanded to be put up for the night in the haunted house. The landlord finally gave in to his demand, but said only on 2 conditions. The first was that if the young man saw anything supernatural, he would pull the bell cord so the landlord could come in and help him. The second condition was that he kept the landlord's pistol with him in case he saw anything evil. While Sir Robert thought this was strange, he chalked it down to superstition and agreed. As the grandfather clock struck midnight, the young libertine climbed the stairs to the attic with a candle in hand. 40 minutes after Sir Robert went to bed, however, the landlord was awoken by the bell violently jangling. Then, to the terror of the man, he heard a deafening gunshot ring out from the attic. The landlord raced upstairs and found Sir Robert sitting on the floor in the corner of the room with a smoking pistol in his hand. "What on earth did you see?" asked the breathless landlord, but he got no reply. After walking closer, he realised that the young man had died from what appeared to be a traumatic shock, with his eyes bulging and his lips curled from his clenched teeth. The landlord followed the line of sight from the dead man's locked eyes and found a single bullet embedded in the wall. He realised that Sir Robert must have seen the thing that had frightened so many before him and tried to shoot it. The question was, did the shot kill the terrified man, or was it something more sinister? There is yet another ghost that is said to haunt the attic of 50 Berkeley Square, which is the spirit of a little girl who was murdered by a sadistic servant who was trying to punish the misbehaving girl but got too carried away. In 1879, the Mayfair magazine printed an article that reported an encounter that a maid had in the attic room that eventually sent her mad. The maid had been sent by the owner of the house to prepare a room for the guest. I mean, if I got stuck in the attic, they'd definitely be getting a 1-star TripAdvisor review. After the maid had been gone for a few minutes, they heard screams from upstairs. When they ran to see what was happening, the whole household saw the woman lying on the floor in a trance-like state, muttering the words, "Don't let it touch me. Don't let it touch me. Don't let it touch me." The article claimed that the woman was put in an asylum where she later died. Prior to the incident, one of the daughters of the maid said that she hated visiting the house as the smell reminded her of animals in a zoo. Those of you who have watched a Fast and Furious movie with a screen full of young teenagers probably can relate. A man named Captain Kenfield was the guest who the maid was preparing the room for when she fell ill. Although concerned about what happened, he agreed to stay in the room regardless. He told the family that he would ring the bell twice if he needed them to come in, and that he would ring it once just to test it was still working. At midnight, the bell rang, but the master of the house ignored it as instructed. All of a sudden, the bell began to ring violently, like it was about to come off the wall. Everyone in the house rushed to the attic room to find the man paralysed with fear and unable to speak. Although the man wasn't driven mad, he refused to share what or who he had seen in the room. In 1887, 2 sailors from the HMS Penelope sought shelter for the night after a few too many rums during shore leave. They decided to break into the now abandoned 50 Berkeley Square, oblivious of the chilling ghost stories. As they tried to sleep on the second floor, however, they were left terrified at the sight of an angry ghost walking towards them who matched the description of the heartbroken Thomas Myers. One of the sailors sprang up and ran to the exit, but tripped and hit his head. He died of his injuries. So what was behind the sudden deaths, and what drove people to insanity? One rumour during the Victorian era was that a supernatural entity from English and North American folklore was responsible, which went by the name Bloody Bones. The legend of Bloody Bones started around 1548 and is a paranormal entity that is similar to the bogeyman. The figure, often used to frighten young children into good behaviour, is described in Somerset folklore as a demon that hides in dark cupboards or rooms. It is said that those brave enough to peep through a crack in the space will see a crouching figure with blood running down its face, surrounded by a pile of bones. Kinda sounds like me after ordering a bonus bucket at KFC, minus the blood of course. From 1937 to this day, 50 Berkeley Square has been owned by Mags Bros, a company of antique book dealers, which I think we can all agree is a fitting purpose for the most haunted building in London. If they ever come across a book that looks like it has a face and is made out of jerky, then this haunting could get a whole lot worse. So, was the thing haunting the attic of 50 Berkeley Square the tortured spirit of Thomas Myers, who drove others mad just like how the rejection from his fiancée made him? Or was all the death and sadness a beacon for a demonic entity to take root? Of course, the stories could be just fiction, inspired by neglect of the domineering building that watched over Berkeley Square for all these years. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and would like to watch more supernatural and haunted content, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. That way, you'll be informed the second I upload. And until next time, sleep well, friends.